What do the numbers say about how the LA Kings are playing since the trade deadline? And several Kings prospects are getting ready for postseason play. That and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years, also co-host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the past 18 years, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. The LA Kings are getting set to take on the Colorado Avalanche in their next game on Thursday in Denver. We'll give you a little preview of that game coming up. But we start with how the Kings have been playing down the stretch and going into the playoffs. The Kings are going to make the playoffs for a fourth straight season. And we don't know yet who they're going to play or where the series will start, but it is looking like it will be Kings-Oilers for a fourth straight season. And we know the Kings have been playing well of late, but how well? I've talked about it before, but two of the components to playoff success, usually how does a team match up head-to-head against the team they're playing, and how is a team playing over the final 20 to 25 games or so. So the trade deadline was back on March the 7th. After the deadline is the time where teams are looking to gear up heading into the playoffs. The rosters are now typically set because you've added a player or two, and it's time for that final playoff push to secure that spot and certain seeding in the postseason. So how have the Kings played since the NHL trade deadline? Well, most importantly, no team in the NHL has more points than the LA Kings since the trade deadline. Since March the 7th, the Kings have 18 points with a record of 9-1. That's one more than the St. Louis Blues have over that span, two more than the Colorado Avalanche and the Washington Capitals. Before the trade deadline, the Kings were 13th in the NHL in points with 71. So no team is playing better since the trade deadline than the LA Kings. Now, before the deadline, the Kings were 24th in average goals scored per game, 2.85. Since the deadline, the Kings are 5th in the NHL. They're scoring 3.70 goals per game since the deadline. Now, clearly, LA's numbers have been bolstered by a couple of games where they scored 7 goals in a row, but then again, they still scored those goals. You get credit for that. We know the Kings have been good at not allowing goals all season, but since the deadline, they've been even better in that department as well. Before the deadline, the Kings were allowing 2.7 goals per game, 6th best in the NHL. Since the deadline, 1.6 goals allowed per game. That is number one in the NHL. No other team in the NHL since the deadline is allowing fewer goals than 2 per game other than the LA Kings. How about the Kings power play? Before the deadline, 29th in the NHL, 15.1%. Since the deadline, 26.1%. That's 11th in the NHL. And we said if the power play can just be decent, that would be a big deal for the LA Kings. Obviously, they added Andrei Kuzmenko at the deadline. Part of the reason they got him, right-handed shot, specifically to help out on the power play. And so far, so good. Kings are coming off scoring 2 power play goals against the Rangers back on Tuesday. Just the second time all season they've scored 2 power play goals in a game. The penalty kill has improved as well. Before the break, it was ranked 9th in the NHL, 81.1%. Since the deadline, 87.1%. That's 6th best in the league. As for the goalie save percentages, Darcy Kemper and David Rittich combined, before the deadline, they were at 90.3%, 14th in the NHL. Since the deadline, 93.7%. That is number one in the NHL. As far as individuals since the deadline, Kevin Fiala leading the Kings with 10 points, 4 goals, and 6 assists. Quentin Byfield has 9 points with 7 goals and 2 assists. Matter of fact, only one other player in the NHL has more goals in the month of March than Quentin Byfield. That would be John Tavares of the Maple Leafs. He's got one more with 10. Actually, 10 points. Byfield has 9, so not goals, but points. Andrei Kopitar also 9 points. He's got 4 goals and 5 assists. Adrian Kempe has 8 points, 3 goals, 5 assists. And Drew Doughty leads all defensemen with 7 points, 2 goals, and 5 assists. So a lot of the big names coming through recently for the LA Kings. As for the Kings netminders, since the deadline, Darcy Kemper and David Riddick combined to go 9-1. Kemper's 7-1. He's allowed a total of 8 goals in 8 starts since the deadline. That's pretty good. I've mentioned a few times that Darcy Kemper should be a finalist for the Vezina Trophy, given out to the NHL's top goalie that season. Unfortunately for Darcy, he did miss some games earlier in the season, and that is probably going to hurt his chances a bit. Kemper right now, though, second in goals against average to Connor Hellebuck of the Winnipeg Jets. Kemper is at 2.10. Hellebuck's at 2.06. Kemper third in the NHL in save percentage. He's at 919. Andrei Vasilevsky of Tampa Bay is at 930, and Connor Hellebuck is at 924. Wins is where Kemper doesn't really measure up again because of the games that he missed due to injury. Darcy Kemper has 25 wins. That's tied for 9th in the NHL. Connor Hellebuck has 41. Andrei Vasilevsky has 34. So that's probably what's going to really hurt him as far as, well, certainly winning the award, but maybe even as a finalist as well. But he's right there in the discussion. There's no doubt about it. He's been a top 5 goalie in all the games that he's played this year. Top 3 are the guys who usually get to be a finalist for the award. Still a fantastic season for Darcy Kemper. He is very worthy of being in the discussion for the Vezina Trophy, again, finalist for the goalie of the year in the NHL. As for all the numbers that we've talked about for the team, add it all together, and after not making a major addition at the deadline, we talked about Andrei Kuzmenko, the Kings have been the best team in the NHL since the trade deadline. 10 games isn't a huge sample size, but it's not small either. So any way you slice it, as far as what the Kings are doing right now, I don't know how you cannot be very encouraged by what we've seen. They have improved since the trade deadline. The trade deadline also coincided with the Kings going to that 12-6 setup. It coincided with Drew Doughty being put back up on the top pairing, Vladislav Gavrikov coming back to the second pairing. All those factors everything has seemed to have fallen into place right now for the Kings. Now, can they keep this pace up as they go into the playoffs? Well, obviously we'll see, but 8 games at home of the final 12 certainly is going to help that a lot. So far, they've put themselves in a great position to get home ice advantage in the first round of the playoffs, which they haven't had over those past 3 years against Edmonton. Kings have made themselves harder to play against with those offseason additions, Warren Fogle, Tanner Jeannot, hopefully healthy, and Joel Edmondson. The goaltending is better than it has been with Darcy Kemper. And if the Kings can continue to get some offensive production, led by Kevin Fiala, Quentin Byfield, Adrian Kempe, Andre Kopitar, and others chipping in, then the Kings, again, also with a halfway decent power play, add it all together, I think you've got to be, as an LA Kings fan, pretty encouraged at this point. All right, up next, several Kings top prospects are gearing up for postseason play, and one of them got some great news earlier this week. That's next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. You just realized your business needs to hire someone yesterday. How do you find amazing candidates fast, easy? Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. If you've been in that spot where you need to hire the right person now, pressure's on, and every day without the right person's a setback, that's exactly when Indeed's sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. And now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. Postseason play about to get underway in both junior hockey and college hockey, and I wanted to get you updated on Kings prospects taking part, and it's nice to see that most of them are taking part. 9 of the Kings' 12 prospects have advanced to play in postseason in various different levels. That's including all 5 of the Kings prospects playing junior hockey in the Ontario Hockey League and in the Western Hockey League. We'll start with the OHL playoffs, which will feature 4 LA Kings prospects. And we'll start with 19-year-old Liam Greentree, the Kings' first-round pick in 2024, captain of the Windsor Spitfires, who won the Western Division in the OHL. They're the number 2 seed in the Ontario Hockey League playoffs. Greentree and his teammates will be facing the 7-seeded Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. That starts on Thursday. In his final season of junior hockey, Greentree outstanding this year, 49 goals, 70 assists for 119 points in 64 games. 6'3", 220-pound power forward, will be turning pro next season and likely will be in the AHL with the Ontario Reign. But first, he's going to look and see if he can't lead his teammates to a championship in junior hockey. And again, that'll be the Windsor Spitfires taking on the Sioux Greyhounds starting on Thursday. Goalie Carter George of the Owen Sound Attack helped backstop his team into the final playoff spot in the West as they are the 8th seed. George, the Kings' second-round pick in the 2024 draft, finished the regular season 17, 22, and 6, 3.35 goals against average, and a .909 save percentage. Again, a very talented young goalie playing for not the greatest team out there, but he almost willed them into the playoffs. He started 47 of 67 games this year. 18-year-old netminder will return to junior hockey for another season next year, and then will look to turn pro the following season. George will be taking on another Kings draft pick in the opening round as their playoffs will start on Friday. It will be the Owen Sound Attack taking on the number 1 seed in the OHL playoffs. That would be the London Knights and 19-year-old defenseman Jared Woolley, 6th-round pick of the Kings in 2024, 68 games for him this season, 9 goals, 28 points, playing for the top team in the league, and they won the Midwest Division title this year. Woolley's 6'5", 215. He was a plus 49 this season. He is expected to return for a 3rd season of junior hockey next year. Carter George is under contract by the Kings, and now, this is the big news I mentioned, so is Jared Woolley, signed by the LA Kings on Wednesday, gets an entry-level, 3-year entry-level contract. So congratulations to Jared Woolley, now officially a part of the LA Kings organization. Clearly the Kings love his development over the last couple of years, and his size makes him an attractive NHL prospect. 20-year-old Matthew Maney will be in the playoffs, playing with the Flint Firebirds. They're the 6th seed in the playoffs. They'll take on the 3rd-seeded Kitchener Rangers. That starts on Friday. Mania was a 5th-round pick of the Kings in 2023, 6'1", 190-pound defenseman. Had career highs this year in points with 45, assists with 38, playing in all 66 games for Flint. Mania yet to sign by the Kings. We'll see what they decide to do with him after the season. And finally, 20-year-old Cohen Ziemer is the only Kings junior player not playing in the OHL playoffs. He's in the Western Hockey League playoffs. 3rd-round pick in 2023, a forward for the Prince George Cougars. They'll be taking on the Portland Winterhawks in the playoffs starting on Friday. Ziemer is the all-time career goal-scoring leader for Prince George. Finished this season with 37 goals, giving him a total of 128 in 244 games with the Cougars. He's bounced back strong from ankle surgery a year ago, played in 61 games this season, and he is under contract with the LA Kings. He'll be in Ontario with the Reign next season, but looking forward to keeping track of how all these players do in the playoffs, and we will keep you updated on how these players perform in the OHL and the WHL playoffs, which are starting again Thursday and Friday. Now, 5 of the 8 Kings college prospects are going to be involved in the NCAA Hockey Championship Tournament. That includes 16 teams. One of them is Western Michigan. They are the number 1 seed in the Fargo region, Fargo, North Dakota. They'll be facing Minnesota State in their first-round game. That is Thursday, 2 p.m. LA time. You can see it on ESPNU. Western Michigan, number 1 seed, 37-1 the record. They've never won a national championship, and they are being backstopped by 19-year-old goalie Hampton Slakinski, 4th-round pick of the Kings in 2023, 6'2", 185-pound freshman, 15-5-1 the record, 2.04 goals against average, and a .918 save percentage. An outstanding first season of college hockey for Hampton Slakinski. Named to the National Collegiate Hockey Conference All-Rookie Team. He's made the 2nd team overall and was a finalist for the Conference Goalie of the Year. So looking forward to seeing Hampton Slakinski backstopping a number 1 seed in Western Michigan against Minnesota State in their first game coming up on Thursday. You've got Denver taking on Providence. The LA Kings have 2 prospects playing for Denver, the defending national champs. They'll be playing Providence in the Manchester region. That's Manchester, New Hampshire, starting Friday, 2:30 p.m. LA time. It's an ESPN Plus broadcast if you want to check it out. For the 2 Kings prospects playing for Denver, you've got 22-year-old forward Jared Wright, 6th-round pick of the Kings, 6'3", 175. He's a junior. 41 games this year, 8 goals, 8 assists for 16 points. And then you got 19-year-old James Reeder, 7th-round pick of the Kings in 2024. He's a freshman forward, 10 goals, 10 assists for 20 points in 41 games this season. So again, both Jared Wright and James Reeder in action for the defending national champion Denver Pioneers as they face Providence on Friday. You've got UMass facing Minnesota. That's also in the Fargo region. They will square off on Thursday at 5:30 p.m. LA time. And playing for the UMass Minutemen is forward Kenny Connors, 22 years old, 4th-round pick of the Kings in 2022, 6'2", 210 pounds, 38 games this year, 10 goals, 18 assists for 28 points for UMass. Also, Boston University and Kings prospect Jack Hughes will be facing Ohio State in the Toledo region. That'll start Thursday, 11 a.m. LA time. That is 21-year-old Jack Hughes, 2nd-round pick of the Kings in 2022, 6 foot, 170-pound senior forward. So this is his last year of college hockey for BU. Hughes, 5 goals, 20 points in 35 games this season. Those 20 points were a new career high. As far as the other college prospects for the LA Kings, there are 3 players that unfortunately their teams did not advance into the postseason as far as the national championship tournament. That would be 20-year-old Ryan Comney, 6th-round pick of the Kings in 2023, a 5'10", 190-pound forward. Wrapped up his sophomore season in New Hampshire, led the team with 33 points. 21-year-old Jack Sparks, 6th-round pick in 2022, 6'8", 240-pound freshman defenseman at Clarkson University. He had a goal and 5 points, also had 66 penalty minutes in 36 games. And 23-year-old Braden Doyle, 6th-round pick of the Kings in 2019, 5'11", 185 senior defenseman, played for Niagara University, played in all the team's 37 games, had a goal and 10 assists this season. The Frozen Four, which is the Final Four of college hockey, will be April the 10th and the 12th in St. Louis, Missouri, and hopefully we have a couple of LA Kings advancing all the way to the Frozen Four. It will be fun to keep track of what's been going on for these Kings prospects in the junior hockey playoffs and in the NCAA men's hockey playoffs. All right, next we've got some roster news for the LA Kings, and we'll preview the Kings Avalanche game. That is next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. If you're like me, your mornings have to start with a good cup of coffee, but I got tired of settling for grocery store brands that just weren't cutting it. That's why I turned to Trade, and that's the name of the company, Trade, to help me out. Their coffee is next level. Trade is the #1 specialty coffee marketplace in the U.S., bringing you fresh coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Their experts have taste tested thousands of coffees, curating over 450 amazing roasts. Whether you're new to coffee or know exactly what you like, they'll handpick the perfect match for you. The subscription makes it so easy. No more last-minute grocery store runs or settling for whatever's on the shelf. And if you don't love your first bag, no worries. Trade will replace it for free until they get it just right. Right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 40% off their first order at drinktrade.com/LockedOnNHL. That's drinktrade, TRADE.com/LockedOnNHL for 40% off your first order. drinktrade.com/LockedOnNHL. All right, the LA Kings I mentioned earlier going to be in action on Thursday in Denver against the Avalanche, and we don't have an injury update on Tanner Jeannot at this point. He was injured in the 3rd period of the win over the New York Rangers on Tuesday. It is an undisclosed injury. There's no timeline at this point. So we don't know if it's upper body, lower body. They've been given no indication on what the injury might be or how long he might be out of action. So this feels very different than the recent injuries we've had to Trevor Moore and Alex Turcotte, who were both immediately deemed day-to-day. As a matter of fact, Trevor Moore just missed 1 game and was back in action. Hopefully the same will be the case for Alex Turcotte, who didn't play against the Rangers, and hopefully he'll be in action coming up in Colorado or soon thereafter. So it feels like right now Tanner Jeannot is going to be out for a little while. And as it stands right now, personally, and I don't have any information on this, I'm just hoping that he is back for the playoffs. If he's back before that, fantastic. But it sounds like it could be somewhat serious, but we'll certainly update you on any information we get on Tanner Jeannot going forward. He's been really good for the Kings, especially late in the season. He's the team's leading hitter, provides a physical presence, and has been playing just some all-around great hockey here over the last couple of weeks. So hopefully we get an update, and hopefully it's good news on Tanner Jeannot here in the near future. Now, in related Kings news, the Kings called up forward Jeff Malott from the Ontario Reign. He's 28 years old, 6'4", 205 pounds, played 4 years at Cornell University, and then has spent the last 5 seasons playing in the AHL. He was with the Winnipeg Jets organization. This is his first year in the LA Kings organization. He has appeared in one NHL game back for the Winnipeg Jets during the 2021-22 season. He's been a 20-goal scorer in 4 of his 5 seasons in the AHL, including this season, his first season with the Reign. 61 games, Jeff Malott, 23 goals, which is second on the team, and 28 assists for 51 points, which is third on the team. Here's a quote from LA Kings insider Zach Dooley from Ontario Reign head coach Marco Sturm talking about what Jeff Malott brings to the table. Marco Sturm said, quote, "He plays the right way. He goes hard. He goes hard to the net. He wants to win really badly. He wants to score. So everything he really does is 100% and full speed. And don't forget his toughness too." End quote. So kind of sounds like a Tanner Jeannot type of a player. It'll be interesting to see how he's utilized, if he is. I would say right now, if we don't have Alex Turcotte back, then I would expect Trevor Lewis to be in the lineup for him as he was against the Rangers. If Tanner Jeannot is out, well, we know he's out. It'll either be Akil Thomas or Jeff Malott getting that other spot. I would kind of like to see it be Akil Thomas because he's kind of patiently waited for his opportunity. But in the end, we'll see. Maybe those guys will share the duties, and whoever kind of asserts themselves. If Jeannot is out longer than we want him to be, then maybe one of those guys will win that job. Obviously, at this point of the season, whoever's going to play better is going to get it. But I hope Akil Thomas gets the first crack at it. But Jeff Malott called up from the Ontario Reign by the LA Kings and likely looking to fill the shoes or the skates of Tanner Jeannot in some way going forward. All right, speaking of the Kings' next game, I mentioned it earlier, quick trip to Denver, Colorado to face the Avalanche, who are a playoff team this year. They are in a battle, are the Avalanche, with the Dallas Stars for second place in the Central Division and home ice advantage in their first-round playoff matchup, which is going to be huge for those two very good teams. The Avalanche are led by a couple of big-time players, MVP candidate Nathan MacKinnon, who's already won a Hart Trophy before, and it looks like he's going to be right in the running to win it again. Be shocked if he's not a finalist. And then you've got previous Norris Trophy winner as the league's top defenseman. He's going to be right there as a finalist again, and that's Cale Makar. So a couple of superstars to contend with for the LA Kings. As for the goalie matchup in this one, should favor the Kings. Darcy Kemper going for LA. Mackenzie Blackwood will be in net for Colorado. This is a big-time matchup of two of the top teams in the West. Colorado is 4th in the Western Conference in points with 91. The Kings are 5th with 89. Colorado's 8-1-1 in its last 10 games. LA is 9-1 in its last 10. Two teams have met once this season. The Avs beat the Kings 4-2 back on November 13th in Denver. They will meet one more time after Thursday's matchup. That'll be April the 12th in Los Angeles. Face-off between the Avalanche and the Kings on Thursday is set for 7 p.m. LA time. I do not believe this game is being broadcast locally. I believe it is only broadcast nationally. It's going to be on ESPN, not ESPN Plus streaming, but the actual main ESPN network. So that'll be good for the Kings to get some national exposure. And you can hear the game on the 710 ESPN app. So again, looking forward to a big-time matchup. Kings versus Avalanche, two of the top teams in the West, two teams that are playing great hockey of late. So should be a really, really fun matchup between the Kings and the Avs on Thursday. All right, for you everydayers, those who listen to watch Locked On LA Kings every day, coming up on Thursday, we will be recapping the Kings Avalanche game shortly after its conclusion. If you want to send an email to the show for any reason, including our weekly Friday fan feedback show, the email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. You're always welcome to post your thoughts if you're watching on YouTube in the comments section. And we would love for you to stay connected with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram. We are at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you, as always, for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We will talk to you on Thursday. And as always, go Kings, go.